All right, perfect. Welcome to A Message to Lightworkers, a podcast dedicated to light workers and healers. We are here to get inspired, motivated, and informed by industry leaders. Today we have Sue. Sue is visiting us for the second time, so how exciting. If you want to know a little bit more about her history, her background, visit episode 1, which I will link to the box below. Sue Hidalgo has lived 40 years as an energy healer. She's a spiritual reader, and she is listed in the top 100 psychics in America, voted in by peers. She's taught thousands of people to open up their gifts. So I want to welcome you, Sue, back to the show, and thanks for being here again.
Thanks, Bri. Well, I'm excited to be here and to talk about this topic. You know that I've devoted my life to it since I was in my early 20s, and I'm now in my mid-60s. And all of this started out when I was quite little. I would see dead people in the house and they would talk to me. And of course, growing up in the deep South, that was a no-no. So when you ask this question about what's the difference between psychic and schizophrenia, I was like, well, when I was little, there was a question about that because no one believed what I was talking about. So I shut my mouth and I moved my entire mindset away from this intuitive stuff until I started taking yoga. And when I began to do yoga meditations, that's when all the psychic vision opened up, and it was quite dramatic. In fact, I'm in another astrological cycle of time that's a repeat of that decades and decades ago experience. And I think that one of the things to keep in mind is that if you can't manage it or control it, it's going to affect your psychological well-being. So when I opened up in my early 20s, one of the first things I did was start therapy. And I was very lucky because I found people who were transpersonal therapists and alternative healers already. And they didn't think I was odd at all. And in fact, that's a big trend with a lot of therapists these days, counselors. They know that intuition is the thing, and that's how it goes. But it's true that people who are psychic sometimes have a little bit of a rougher time of it because in their childhoods, they're always tuned into what's going on and who's upset and how high to jump and when and what's going on. And a lot of times in the family, they don't get affirmed about what's going on. Most families have a closed mouth, closed heart policy. They don't discuss feelings or maybe not even discuss anything at all. But so I think it's important that people take into account, is my intuition functioning with my everyday world? Mm-hmm. And if it isn't, to take some time to do it, get it together.
Yeah, that's actually a really good segue to one of the viewers had a question about this. And her question is, do you ever feel flooded with messages? And what is your daily routine to cope?
I'm very into grounding. I'm sure you know I have some free online YouTube material, and one of them is about grounding and centering because that's invaluable. So in the 20 years I taught energy healing in the Midwest Premier Massage School, one of the first things I taught in every class was how to ground your energy. So that's important. So when the psychic information or the emotional information off other people can often be quite zingy, and you get it and you're like, my energy is sort of flooded and I can't function with all this energy, emotions, and information coming in. And is it real anyway? And so getting grounded helps you, just like that 3-pronged plug on your electrical outlet. The grounding helps you to handle all that energy that's coming in information, feelings, and what we might call X factor levels of the aura beyond the emotional and the mental bodies, the thinking, everyday thoughts and such. But the grounding is important. I do meditate regularly. I do a lot of breath work regularly. And just last week, I picked up something off one of my clients. a couple of people, because people are all the time wanting me to help them and reaching out on an energy level, on an energy plane. I have some technology that I do. We'll teach you one. What the hell? And so this is your central meridian, and it goes down to here. Excuse me, governing meridian, circulation 6. I'm having a granny moment. And this is the fingertip for that. This meridian right here is your triple heater. It keeps the hormones heating and cooling of the body. So we're going to place the triple heater meridian on a heart protector circulation meridian point, and we're going to pump it, and we're going to say a little number. Before we do that, though, think of somebody that kind of you can't get off your mind. Not the worst case scenario. Yeah. And how do you feel that? You feel it in your gut? So now we're going to pump that point and say the numbers out loud or in your head. 9957, 9957. And just keep pumping that acupuncture point, 995. That's good. I can feel it switch. Now you can stop pumping and think about that person again. Is it different in your tummy?
I actually feel it a little bit more in my head, like it released.
It moved. Well, let's keep going. Think
Yeah.
about the head and keep pumping and going 9957, using that little ring finger to pump this point in the middle of the palm. There we go. Good. 9957. There we go. Good. Oh, I see what you say. I can feel that. You know, that's part of being psychic, is being where you feel other people's feelings. And I use that in my healing work a lot. So that means I've practiced getting other people off my aura a lot. Okay, now we can stop and think about that person again. How does it feel?
Much lighter.
Yeah, much
Definitely.
lighter. And, you know, it's not like you're going to go blind doing this and keep working it. And this is a number from, I do a lot of work with sacred geometry and the energy field. And another one is to take your right hand and pretend you've got a clock on your, it's good, I'm wearing my chakra shirt. So 12 o'clock is in the center, 6 o'clock's down below near your belly button, and 3 o'clock is over near your left arm. So we're going to make a big circle, and we're going to say, let's see what number we're going to do. 2, 3, 5, 3, 6, 5, 8, 7 for clearing other people's energies off me. 2, 3, 5, 3, 6, 5, 8, 7 for clearing other people's energies off me. Now we're going to hold the hand out about this far and pump it a little bit, holding for all time frames and all dimensions. I didn't know I'd talk about this today. Holding for all time. Now, see how your energy feels.
It feels a lot more locked in.
Yeah, it's just a whole lot of these numbers. I don't know if you came to it. I did a little freebie thing a month or two ago. Time's kind of stretches funny for me. I think it was a couple of months ago I gave a free talk about this. Might be on YouTube.
Yeah.
About numbers and sacred geometry. And we just did a circle. Earlier we did a dot. And numbers run the universe. They're a language. So is sacred geometry. Anyway, like I said, wasn't sure I'd get onto this topic, but you know, I'm trained in about 40 different healing modalities,
Yeah.
most of them to the level of advanced practitioner or
So why don't you leave your information where people can, you can go ahead, because people are listening as well. Why don't you go ahead and leave your information that they can go to find you?
Yes, SueHidalgo.com. And
Okay.
that's where they can, and on YouTube, it's under Sue Hidalgo YouTube
Perfect.
station. So I learned a lot of techniques from a spectrum, and I use them regularly to help ground me from other people. I don't have on one right now, but I usually wear something that's hematite or black tourmaline, labradorite. There are a lot of stones that are grounding. And in my early youth, before I even knew I was really psychic, back in the days where that was not a word in my vocabulary, I wore a lot of garnets just because I liked them. And I realized as I've grown that garnet is a good stone for me because it helps me, because I tend to be ungrounded. So it helps me move back into my body. So that is a problem for people who are psychic, is their grounding and their centering, because we tend to get information from a bigger field. You also ask if everybody is psychic, and yeah, the answer to that's yes. Some people have extended sensory perception. I think about my girlfriend's dog. He has, dogs have such an extended sense of smell, as do cats. And so it's normal to have an extended sense. Bees travel by infrared. We don't see infrared without, goggle glasses, military goggle glasses, but, there are other frequencies besides the visible spectrum of light. So the psychic information that comes in is on frequencies that are not typically accessed, but everybody gets vibes. They just tend to ignore them or don't know what to do with all that information that comes in. So they get a little scrambled. And that's another reason why getting our receptors more clear, and our receptor is our entire nervous system and our body. We can tell when somebody's looking at us, our skin tingles. You're like, oh, eyes in the back of the head. So it's very normal. Everybody is psychic. We just, when I train people, it's about how to work with these extended senses so that they can manage them a little better.
So what does it mean to be psychic? What does that mean?
Well, the population, the general population thinks of it as we're going to have a crystal ball. I don't have one on my desk, but I do have a bunch of them, because it's so much fun. And so they think of us as gypsy fortune tellers because that's the idea that came into our culture. But I can tell you right now that a lot of my clients who may run a Fortune 500 company or two, they're very psychic and they use it in their business sense. They use those vibes. But our typical culture says that being psychic is the lady with a million crystals on her chest and the crystal ball and the guy with long hair and tarot cards and such. So our culture has a picture, and I know that occasionally I'm a little guilty of using that in order to make a connection with advertising because that's what people expect. But everyone is very psychic. And it's about that intuitive information that's usually just a little out of range of our conscious thinking. One of my other favorite quotes is, "Be still and know that I am God." We think about that as a Christian statement, a New Testament Bible thing, but it's actually a very good piece of advice for sorting out all the information we get. Be still. And if you get into a culture that's really into being still, that's Buddhism. When they begin to gather psychic information, when they're still, it's not part of what they're seeking at all. And so that has been a major influence for me as well, to be able to put the psychic stuff in perspective over here as something that can be useful or usable, but definitely not the end all be all of what is going on. So that also helps me separate out the grounding and realizing that I respect other people and I respect their choices, even when they're bad or wrong choices, which is another Buddhist idea that, the wheel of karma spins and we are someplace on it. Sometimes when this wheel spins around, we're going to get an experience of being in love, falling out of love, having a lot of money, having no money. So people are usually looking for psychics because they're attached to and want an answer to help stop something happening in their life or to make something happen. And this is why most of my work centers around helping people. My byline is helping people to be happy humans, because that's what I'm seeking information for, how to help your life work for you in a way that's growthful and balanced versus showing you how dang psychic I am. Although it always amazes me, how does this happen? When you're able to describe someone who's passed over, for example, and give an accurate answer, or remote viewing when you're able to describe a place, or looking for people's lost animals, which I've done, or even some of the times when I've worked when a client's had a connection with the police and they wanted me to find something valuable that was stolen, or where their grandfather's body is when he was murdered while he was out on a road trip. A lot of little things like that. I have a lot of interesting stories in all the decades I've been working. There's so many things people want extra information about.
That's another viewer question, actually. Is it best to know the future or to let things unfold?
Well, you're asking a person. I'm very goal oriented. I'm very future orientated. Some people love the past. My husband can tell you who he kissed in 5th grade and that she was wearing a polka dot dress and blah, blah, blah. And I am a future orientated person. I am a planner. I'm obsessed with planning. I love to think about, and that's, there are 3 places where consciousness tends to live for people: in the future, in the past, or in the present. And I tend to try to be in the present. There's a book written long ago by a famous man named Ram Dass, and it's called Be Here Now. And it's a beautiful book. It's germane today. And the thought is, how do we be in the present moment? People who are, there's a quote by Lao Tzu about people living in the past. And I'm going to butcher this quote because it's not exact. I've scrambled it in with some other information that I work with personal growth work. Something happens in the past to a person that's traumatic and they develop a fear, a phobia. And then if they don't deal with or resolve their feelings, they go along and in the present time, they cover that phobia with an addiction. They like to eat, they buy too many shoes, they, workaholics, one of my other favorites. And then if that doesn't work, they tend to project into the future and become obsessive. That's me, I love the future. And so what's happening is really a need to deal with what the original phobia is. And according to the Course in Miracles, the original phobia is that we believe in lack of love, and that we should return to the idea that all there is love. Love is the master healer. I know a lot of techniques, but some of the most amazing things that I've ever seen happen in healing come from loving and being loved, the spontaneous healing. In fact, one of the top hypnotherapists in the world, Belle Ruth Napperstack, who has a lot of CDs out, can't remember her company name. Anyway, a good friend of mine works for Kaiser Permanente in California, and they give out Belle Ruth Napperstack CDs in the cancer wards and such. And she's done them for the military, for hypnotherapy work. And the bottom line is, in most of her CDs, she talks about anyone who's ever loved you and that you've ever loved, to feel it in your heart and to allow that to grow. And that's going to help you with your cancer and so on and so forth. So this is not the only topic she has in her work, but it's a core thought in the hypnotherapy work, which is internationally recognized by hospitals and other enterprises. I've had the good fortune to study with a lot of top flight hypnotherapists in my day. Part of that psychological cleaning up I referred to earlier. Did I answer your question?
Yeah,
I like to talk. I just blah, blah,
blah. Speaking of psychological stuff, it kind of leads me into the next big question is imagination. Is it your mind or different? How do you know the difference between if it's your mind creating an image or if it's actually a vision? What's the distinguishing factor between the two when someone's kind of on that road learning to work with themselves?
Learning is a good key because it's experiential. Several things I want to say here. We should make sure I get them all out. One is, don't be attached to being right. When you're attached to being right, you're going to hold to that thing that you picked up, and you're not going to get more pieces of it that might help it make sense. You're going to be attached to that. No, this is the piece. This is it. I'm certain. And there's this little thing called free will. People make choices all the time that divert energy here and there. And the way that the universe is very abundant, if one road isn't taken that would have helped you to grow spiritually, you don't take that road, then another one's going to appear that is going to take you on that path to. So I look at life as a learning experience. Yeah, like the old Joni Mitchell song, life is for learning, we are stardust. So people, when they're beginning to get information, or when I'm teaching them, I say, always ask the person to that you're getting information about, or if it's for yourself, write it down, ask the other person, I'm picking this up that this might be intuitively true. And I'm learning about my intuition. Can you let me know maybe in a week or so, or even if you know now, if this is accurate? So it's good to get feedback. It's, let's take it down a mundane level. Let's say you're going to a shoe store and the clerk decides you're a size 8 and sticks your shoe foot in a size 8 when really you're an 8.5 wide. And the clerk is not going to sell you anything but an 8. Do you get my point here? So when we're picking up information about people, flexibility and feedback is very important, not only when you're first learning, but even at my level of 40 years experience. It's good to, and sometimes you just absolutely know that this is not just possible, it's probable. And over time, you learn to get a handle on that, whether something is very likely or just kind of likely. And a lot of times people who are clients come to you with questions and they want this answer. And it comes out of their aura, you're going to give me this answer. And it's like, I can feel you pushing me. I'm just going to move over here and up a level into my higher guidance, my angelics and such. And I'm going to see what they tell me. Because a lot of times in working with people or in everyday life, you're picking up energy off the person who is called the querent, the client, the questioner. And that's something important to learn as well. Are you reading what the person wants you to tell them? Or are you picking something up at another level? You know, my husband and I very well, and he works with astrology as well as intuition, and I just work sometimes with cards and just the energy field. And we both often give the same information, given in our different personality styles and language styles, because that's what you have to work with. The input you get is this filter that's you. And no matter how good you try to be, you're still the filter that the information passes through your nervous system, your language skills, etc. For example, when I get something in a foreign language, I say to my guide, no way, speak to me in English that I can understand. Although it cracked my husband up when I was first married to him 25, 26 years ago. I don't speak Spanish at all. Hola is about as far as I go. And at one point, I was giving him his message from his passed over mother, and I said a sentence in Spanish that she would have said in the same sing-song voice. And he was like, my mom is talking to me. Calm down, honey. It was just a little gift from her through me to let him know that his most loved person was indeed connecting with him. There, I drifted off the topic a little bit, but
That's okay. That's good. But that's beautiful. That's just shows like the power of, the power of connection and that ability. You talked about, if you're not getting the universe being abundant and kind of always some way finding a path for you to learn something. Another viewer question. This is kind of one of those. I'll read the question to you. Is humanity going to get the age of Aquarius right? Will we evolve to the place we should be?
I have to remember to be hopeful about that. So I think I was born melancholic. or it's a melancholy because to come back here again and into a body, I was kind of like, do I really want to do that? I mean, because this is the world of duality. There is good and bad. Again, Buddhism says all life is suffering. And basically what you're going to do about that, how are you going to act? And they suggest loving kindness and service and such. But I certainly hope so. And this is one of the motivations of why I teach people. It's not just to make a living. Heck, I can make a living at other things and make a hell of a lot more money. It's about this teaching and sharing. And that's why I'm interested in the way I talk with people is like kitchen table talk. Yeah, normal, everyday communication, because I think that as a whole, we learn from our elders. And when I was in my 20s, I wasn't teaching my elder, being an elder. I was learning from elders. I may have been speaking with people much older than me, but I kept in mind this idea that we're all in this together. Yeah, is that a good answer? Did I answer it?
Yeah, I think the concern is,
I certainly hope so.
yeah, I think there's just a concern, and there was just a little bit of like clarity wanted. Like, are we going to make it to our next evolution spiritually?
I think we already are. Back in the mid 80s, when I was very deep into learning astrology, I remember us talking about these years, this decade, back then when we were looking at charts and this generation. And this is a tumultuous time, and it will be for quite a while yet. So many of your viewers are very young. They will live to 2040 and 2050. Be patient. Grasshopper. It's happening. It's just happening on a scale that, with a body that's almost like a mayfly, I mean, we live longer than a day. But the cycle is a generational cycle. It's a long cycle. It's not just a one lifetime cycle. It's not a one lifetime event. And I feel fairly certain that when and if I decide to take a body again, that will be the reason. I'll be back again, hopefully to have more fun and also to love more, and also to continue to teach and share, hopefully through a wonderful ordinary life. I know my life in this time has been extraordinary. It's an unusual lifetime. And I think that we all need to live our lives in an extraordinary way in how we interact with one another. Very positive, very kind, very loving. And that is that Aquarian ideal. Now I have Aquarius rising, so I know that I have that drive for the Aquarian energy, which is sometimes a little different, unique, unusual. I'm not too afraid to stand out or to follow what I think or believe. And I think that's how Aquarius energy shows up in my soul's outpouring of it. I've long wished I had that Capricorn rising, but no, I'm just a smidge over into Aquarius. And that's good. It helps me to want to serve and to want to work with groups of people and to not mind holding fast to some of my rather unique or not mainstream ideology. Although in answer to your person who's asking the question, that ideology is becoming more prevalent. Yeah, we're going to get there. Just be patient and know that it's a big cycle.
Awesome. Another question is having this ability, this psychic ability, developing it, is it a gift or a curse?
Yes, we know the answer to that one. Yes, it's both things. So it's a curse when I get ungrounded and fixated on it. And it's a blessing when I stay centered and balanced and am able to work with the information and determine how to, if it's about someone else, how to pass it along in a way that is constructive rather than browbeating or egotistical. And I think that's part of the reason why I do it for a living, because the people who are coming to me have an uh, implied statement that they're coming to me to hear what's going to be given. And, I rarely ask people questions up front. I just tell them what I pick up about them for at least the first half hour. And then if they want to ask questions, and the reason for that is part of my talk about Aquarian, part of my idea is that I'm here to serve what the soul wants to say, their soul or their higher self, their uh, angelics and such. And a lot of times we're piddling around going, should I change my job? Was it the neighbors who put a nail in my tire? Should I re-roof my house? Those are some of the questions I've received recently. And so people will ask questions that they've been asking over and over and over. And that's not the real question. Should I say more about that? People think they know what they want to know, but I would rather, one of my questions to one of my good friends when she and I trade work is I say to her, Christina, what would God like to tell me? And she's like, really, that question again? But I find that that's my focus. I want to know what the higher self wants to tell me versus asking about, well, how's this book contract going to work out? Will I get this contract for doing this or that, printing my cards, blah, blah, blah. These are kind of mundane questions. And I could be here about mundane things, and mundane things do count. But I'm really fixated on this idea that I'm here for a purpose and that I wish to listen. There's some very famous people, Ospensky and Gurdjieff. Many people may not have ever heard of them, but they're famous philosophers in the last century, very high-minded philosophical people. And the one was interviewing students to be his next person that he trained, the inheritor of his work. And he had all these people from Europe come in and they were telling him they did this and they thought that. And the one of them just listened. And he knew that was the most intelligent one, not the one who was trying egotistically to impress, but the one who wanted to understand and think about it and was willing to learn. So many people are not willing to learn. They want to use the ego to tell who they are, what they think, what they pick up, what their ideas are. And yeah, you get the point.
Yeah, I
That
think
became,
there's I feel like there are levels to like your development. And one of those key sign is asking, what does God want from me? Right? What is the message beyond my mind that
yeah,
I'm creating in my mind?
yeah,
And when you can surrender and really let go and be courageous enough to hear that truth, it takes some guts, because that so for some
yeah,
it could be, it can be tough. Like it feels like a big mission or something. I remember asking that question once and I felt like, am I ready to hear the answer? And then it ended up being very, very light. I remember I asked you this question, this was years ago. And then the response was just to relax, just a droplet in the ocean, don't put so much pressure on yourself. It was just really just let go and trust. I thought that was
yeah.
just like, okay, I
Now,
could have read
I'm about
the
to
on
teach,
the wall.
I'm about to teach a course called The Journey of the Soul, the Major Arcana. And that's these cards as part of the tarot that talk about the soul's journey. And about halfway through the journey, there's a card called the Hanged Man. And that's what you're talking about. He surrenders, he relaxes. I wish I had it on my desk, but I have a new card set that shows a person wrapped in a blanket of blue with little clouds on it, and he's a cocoon hanging from a tree. And it is that whole surrendering to transform that ooey gooey caterpillar. It's a tough experience to become something with a head, a thorax, an abdomen, legs, wings. It's a very amazing transformation biochemically, and that is life. And we do have to surrender to it.
Beautiful. Those are all the questions that I had for today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us today?
Every day, I actually sit in the light. I ask to be blessed. And it's a good topic following what we just talked about. I surrender into the light and connect with being blessed. Now, what blesses me? It's that love energy. Before, in Tibetan Buddhism, and the study about how we incarnate, we're at a place of total beingness. And we begin to filter down towards this dimension. We develop a yin and yang, third eye. We develop a metal element, that's the causal body, the throat chakra. We develop a mental body, that's the heart chakra. We develop emotionals, the solar plexus. We develop an etheric, the sacral, and we develop a physical body, the root. And so we come down from a place of light into a place of duality, into a place of causality, into a place of conscious awareness, into a place of feelings, emotions, into a place of feelings, and into a place of experiencing. And so I just sit and let the root chakra and the entire column just receive the light. And that is very aligning and beneficial. It's not even a concept for me anymore. It's an experience of allowing. So when you ask me what else I would like to say, you saw me look up, and because we do kind of look up when we think about the spiritual, but I also looked inside and I said, what do I need to share with people? And that little meditation was, that's it. Thank you for having me today. I always enjoy talking with you.
Yeah,
I miss you.
Yeah, I miss you too. To all the listeners, I just want to thank you for listening. I'll be leaving all of Sue's information in the drop box below, so if you'd like to connect with her, she's available. Sue, thank you again for participating. I love speaking with you too.
See you, everybody.
Bye. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.